you probably need better friends. And you might not be the problem. It might be the choices that you're making, the choices of the kind of people you're around. I don't need that much interaction with my friends. When I do, I'm fully there with them. If I'm on my own, I'm in my own world. When I'm with you, I'm fully with you. You guys will feel the same way. I wanted to talk a little bit about friendship, and that's our topic. And just keep in mind a couple of caveats. Everybody is going to have their own personal philosophy. So whatever you think about your friends and friendship circle, and none of what I will say is an attack towards that, because it's a personal space. And I don't want you to feel like I'm saying anything to say that you're doing something wrong in that process. But I will get you to think. I will get you to challenge. I will get you to understand what that part of your life means. So we'll jump into the training. And the training today is on friendship. I don't pretend to be an expert on what friendship is or not, but I'm just going to share my perspective on it, what I've learned from my clients, what I've learned from the theory of it, what I've learned in life, get you to think about what friendship means to you in your life, and how do you look at your friends or the close circle around you. And it might even mean different things to different people. So friendship, why is it important? First of all, our friends are likely the family that we get to pick. I look at it that way. They're a version of our family that we get to pick. We are all born in different kinds of families and our siblings, and I think that's great that we all have them. But a lot of times we didn't have, at least physically in this realm, we know that we didn't pick that. We were born in a certain type of family. We either get along or don't get along, or there's a mix of relationships that we have. But as we grow up, we actually get to pick our friends, or at least that's the idea, is that we actually get to pick the people closest to us, that we get to share, that we get to be vulnerable, that we get to feel connected, supported, growing together. And we go through different stages in life around that. One thing I know for sure is that your friends will bring a huge amount of joy, connection, support, and all sorts of things that you might need in your life. How you look at that relationship or your friendships makes a big difference in the quality of your life and how you feel supported, how you support others, and how you connect with those around you. And usually these are some of the areas where we take it for granted, and usually they become important when we're going through a tough time. It might be some of the closest people to you. It might be your friendships that make a big difference in the way you recover from that trauma. Ultimately, I think it makes a big difference for a lot of people. People put friendship in different categories, and they will look at it differently based on how they grew up, their philosophies, and so many kinds of things. So I'll cover it, and then I want you to ask some of these questions from yourself and see how you move forward in this area, what you need to improve. I'll start with this. Think of your life as 3 core relationships. One is with yourself, the other one is your social circle, and the third one is the world at large. Your relationship with yourself is understanding your relationship with your mind, your body, your soul. However that means to you is how you understand yourself. Your social circle is your closest family and friends around you. And how you categorize that is completely up to you, but we'll talk about that. And the third one might be your clients, your collaborators, the people that you're doing business with. And sometimes that can come into your close social circle. So, for example, some of my partners are my close friends. These days, my clients have become my close friends. They can mix together depending on how you categorize them, what your philosophy is like, what your boundaries like. Again, think of it in those 3 years, but how you put them together is completely up to you. There's this inscription, know thyself, or a translation of that, and is on the Temple of Apollo in Greece. There are 2 inscriptions: know thyself, nothing in excess. And this is probably one of the oldest phrases, not just in Greece, but in almost every tradition, is that knowing yourself is one of the highest aspects of human consciousness. That means that who you are, what you're about, what your path is about, what you're going to do every day, what you're going to focus on, what your values are, who you're becoming, how you're growing. This is the main reason probably why you're in this community, as well as if you don't understand that, or if you're not on that path, a lot of things will be a struggle. Business will be a struggle. Relationships are going to be a struggle. What you do is going to be a struggle. Focus is going to be a struggle. All of it is going to be a struggle. So even with friendship, know yourself more. And I'll talk about why that's important in relation to your friends or your close circle. The first thing is to know thyself, to know yourself. What that means is for you to do the deeper work. And part of it is as you're showing up, you're doing that work in this community, but part of it is in the background. When you're thinking about it yourself, what is it that your life is about? Who are you? And again, that's not a static answer where I know exactly who I am. It's a journey that you're on. You're figuring out, because who you were a few years ago will be very different from who you are right now. You've grown from that. Some aspects might be similar, but a lot of things might have changed, especially if you're on that growth path. So being in tune with that, knowing what you're about, how you want to show up, what your values are, how you want to look at the world, that makes a big difference as to the kind of people you attract, the kind of people that you repel, the kind of people that you want to be around. Without that, none of the other pieces work. When you understand and know yourself a little bit better, you can ask yourself these two questions. What are my needs and what are the needs of the people around me? This is really important. Your needs and the needs of the people around you. That applies to any relationship, but with your friendship. So what is your need in your friendship circle? And I'll qualify this. Now, think about this. When you were younger, if you go back in your life a few years, initially, friendship was a lot about like having fun and entertainment. In early years, you're just playing and having fun when you were a little kid. As you grow up in your teenage years, maybe even towards your 20s, you're connected to friends that you're hanging out with, trying to figure out things. And again, it's very entertainment focused. It's very, let's enjoy our time, which is great. I think that's great. People grow up that way. And then as you grow older, what ends up happening if you are on a growth, you start to realize that there are other values that starts to come in, especially as you start to develop a family, business, all sorts of things. Now your focus is shifting a little bit. You still want to enjoy your life. You still want to have a good time. I think those are great things. We should always have fun, enjoyment, and all that stuff. That should never go away from our life. The nature of the play might shift, but that's always there. But then your focus changes a little bit as well if you're on the growth path. I want you to look at these categories. You've had childhood friends. You've had old friends that you were with on your path as well. And the third one I'll talk about is growth friends. Most people go from like childhood friends to old friends, and maybe they create some new friends here and there. At a certain point, people don't create much friendships. But if your growth path, for example, if you're building a business, a new type of life, a new type of lifestyle, you encounter so many different kinds of people, you learn from them. And I can tell you this, I've developed more friendships over the past decade of being on this growth path, like being in different communities, going to conferences, being part of virtual communities. I've met actual friends that I'm still friends with, that we got connected, even though sometimes we live far apart. We actually feel very connected. Now, it also matters what kind of community you come from. If you come from a more individualistic world, you look at friendship a little bit differently than if you come from a collectivistic world. I've been in both sides of it, so I have a good understanding of it. So, for example, there are family members who I'm very close with as well. I consider those friendships. In fact, even though they're blood family, because we align so well, I look at them like friends. I look at them as people that I rely on, that I feel aligned with, that I feel connected with. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not close with other people in my life. It's just that I don't put them in the category of friends. I put them in the category of their family. I'll be there. I'll support them. But we don't feel aligned. We don't have similar vision. We don't have the same path, but I always wish the best for them. Now, on the going back to the childhood friends, and this is one of the weird things, people hold on to friends sometimes like it's an obligation. And there are people who have friends all the way from their childhood, from their kindergarten. I think that's a great thing. If you've grown together, you've been together for a long time around each other, you understand each other, I think that's beautiful. But I've had a lot of childhood friends that I'm not friends with anymore. I've had a lot of old friends that they've gone in a different direction, and I'm okay with that. And that connects back to know thyself, because I know who I am and I know what my needs are and I know what kind of people I want to be around. And sometimes those decisions can feel difficult for people because they don't know who they are and what they stand for. My focus has become the past few years, especially as I've worked on myself to show up as a better leader, as a better father, as a better business owner, as somebody who adds value to the world, contributes. My focus has been growth friends. What does that mean? That's something actually Brennan Burchard talks about in his book. I have it right there, The Charge. If you're on a growth path, start getting around people who are actually growing. What does that mean? That means that people who are going past entertainment, they're people who are just around you because they just want to hang out and have a good time and take off. That's perfectly fine. You can have friends like that. But what I'm saying is the focus for me, and because I have been on that growth path, is who can I be more open with? Who can I work out difficult questions with? Who can I go deeper with? Who is actually sharing the real things in their life versus the surface stuff? Who can I share my struggles with? Who can I learn from more? Who is challenging me? Who's pushing me? Now, you'll find that some of the people in this community is like that. You'll find that your coaches are like that because they model that growth path. And I'll share this. Have you guys watched this movie, Good Will Hunting? Yes. Okay. It's an older, famous movie. I actually watched that again recently. I love this movie. And it's funny because a lot of those actors who've grown up, they've become very famous actors. This is 20 years plus. You see this in the beginning stages of their acting career. But the movie was, I think, you could see it's a very low budget movie, but it was very beautifully made. There's a scene there where Matt Damon is with Ben Affleck. They're standing in front of a car. They're both from the poor class and they've both gone through all sorts of stuff. And Matt Damon, if you don't know the story, he's supposed to be a genius in that movie. And Ben Affleck is an average friend that he have. They always go out. And Matt Damon starts talking. He's the main character that's avoiding his own potential, basically. And all the other characters in the movie are trying to help him understand that you have a lot more potential than you think. And you're actually purposely going the opposite direction. In that moment, they're on a break on their construction job. He's, oh, you know what? 20 years from now on, we are around our friends. We're taking them to Little League. Ben Affleck looks at him and he tells him, don't take this the wrong way. You're my best friend. But if I see you 20 years from now on exactly how we live, I'll be like, what the hell are you doing with your life? Not because there's something wrong with his life or something, but what he was trying to say is that I see what I'm capable of right now, and I see something even better in you, and I see something that you're doing that you could go way ahead. You could contribute in different ways. And he was a genius in math and so many other things, and he was given a lot of job offers. He was not taking it. He had a lot of opportunities. He said that, you know what the best part of my day is? That when I drive up to your house, he picks him up every day, bring his coffee. I have this fantasy that you're probably one of the few that can get out of this poverty that we're all in, or our situation that we're all in. He fantasizes about his friend that you won't even be there. You don't even say goodbye to me. And to me, I think that's one of the highest forms of love is that even though he knows as a friend that if he goes off and has better opportunities, he might completely disconnect from him or he might not be around him, but he's going towards his own potential. He's going to create a better life, a better family. He's going to contribute better in the world. And that is probably the truest version of a friend, somebody that cares about you, that despite the fact that you might go away from them, they will be better off. He was challenging him in the moment that you have more potential than you think. And I think the best people around you are those kind of people, whether they're your coaches, your friends, your mentors, your family members, those who want the best for you, no matter what. And I would say that's the closest definition of love as well. Rumi put this in another way. If you look at a beautiful flower, if you like it, you will pluck it and take it. But if you love a flower, you're going to nurture it and water it and let it grow. And I look at friendship a lot like that. It's very important. For me, how I know myself is that I'm on a growth path. What does that mean? That I'm going to be constantly growing. I don't see that stopping anytime. And that doesn't mean that everybody around me have to grow in that way. But there are certain people around me that I actually expect to grow in my way, because we have a common vision. That's my wife, for example. That's some of my close friends. That's some of my business partners. And those people, I actually will challenge them if they're not growing. In fact, I actually have a coaching session with one of my close friends I've known for 20 plus years because he was talking about his business. I'm stuck. He's like, why aren't you getting help for that? I get help for my stuff. Another friend, some of you who are going to the event that we're doing, retreat, he's been running his business. He's a photographer. And I actually collaborated with him. I've known him for 20 plus years. Why don't you come with us and do the photography and videography for this event with us? And I get to travel with him. We get to spend time with him. That helps his business. But I also see that he wants to be involved in this world. He wants to travel. He wants to do this. So I'm looking out for ways to help the people around me. And that goes back to the question is, what's the value that you're adding to the people closest to you? What value are they adding? And that's a two-way question. And subsequent questions I want you to ask yourself. So whoever you consider a friend around you, whoever that is. And by the way, I'll clarify this a little bit more. So my wife is my close friend. That was actually the nature of our relationship before we became more intimate. We started as friends and we became very close, and we still have that. There is a little bit of a difference in dynamic where there's respect and other ways, even though there is respect in friendship, but in marriage it's a little bit different. Primarily, I look at ourselves as close friends. And I consider that my close friendship because I share a lot with her. I probably share with her more than anybody else. But there are other friendships that I have that I'm very close with that I would share things in a different way with them, or I connect differently with them. And there's a need that I have there. And I also know what kind of person I am in the sense that I don't need a lot of human contact. So if I'm friends with you and I don't talk to you for a month, that doesn't mean that I feel disconnected from you. But now keep in mind, another friend you might have, they might have a different need. They might need to talk to you every week. So how do you make sense of that need? You might have to be very realistic. That's not your need, and your focus might be other things. Are you communicating that to that friend? Does that friend take it personally, or do they have another need? Do they need another kind of friend who would meet them every week or every other day? Most of my friends understand that. I will message them, I'll connect with them, but there's quite a bit of time that goes by before we connect and spend time. And this is why, so for example, this friend that's going with me to New Mexico, we haven't seen each other for a few months now, but we've been in touch, we've been talking, we've been connecting, but we're going to spend a whole week together. I'm excited for that. He understands the kind of person I am. I understand the kind of person he is. And here's a question I want you to ask, especially to assess the people that are around you. On top of the questions that I said, what value do you bring to their life? What is the value? Is that support? Is that entertainment? Is that connection? Is that understanding? What support do they bring for you? It has to be a two-way street. It can't be a one-way. And unfortunately, a lot of people are in relationships, whether it's friendships or something else, where it's a one-way thing. And those relationships are not sustainable. Now, I'm not saying you have to count, this is how much I'm giving. That's not how friendships or relationships work in general. But on average, what need are they meeting? What need am I meeting for them? And that could be just fun. That could be a sense of connection and understanding. That could be support. That could be a sense of belonging. Become clear about that, because then you will understand why you're friends with this person. In fact, I would even go ask them, what makes you want to be friends with me? Why have you stuck around with me all these years? And they will tell you why, even though they haven't thought about it. I want you to push them a little bit on that. On top of that, every time you meet somebody or spend time with a friend, after it, I want you to ask yourself two questions. One is, how did you feel after that? What is the feeling that you have? The feeling is very important. Do you feel drained? Do you feel connected? Do you feel excited? Do you feel supported? Do you feel understood? Do you feel overloaded? That will give you a lot of data as to what's happening. A lot of people are resentful and frustrated of the people closer to them because they don't understand what kind of impact they have. They don't check in on them. And based on that, you can make better decisions. So what does that mean? That means that if you're only there for a friend and they're never with you, you can question the kind of relationship you have. What is it for? Why are you only there for them and they're not? Or why are they only for you and you are not? What is happening in there? Because relationships in general for human beings are reciprocal. If the reciprocity goes away, now I'm not saying it has to be one-to-one, exactly as you do for them and they do for you. That never works out like that. But if you don't feel that reciprocity, if you don't feel connected with them, you don't feel supported, understood, you don't have a path similar to each other, you don't understand each other's values, then you might be just holding on to something for the sake of attachment. There are relationships that are okay to let go, not just for your sake, but for their sake as well. Because they might get a better friend just because you left the void in their life of you. They might have other needs. And again, these are difficult things to think about and assess. But I want you to think about your own life, who you are in the process and what kind of needs you have as a leader. What is your capacity to be there for other people? Keep that in mind. What is your capacity with all the things that you're doing? And I'm not saying let go of your friends or anything like that. Question it and connect with them and talk to them. Let them know, communicate what kind of person you are and how you want to support them and show up for them. And ask them, how do you look at our friendship? What is it that you need from me more? How can I show up and be more supportive? It sounds weird because nobody talks about it like this, but this will bring you guys closer. person, because we do that, and I do that in my relationship with my wife. I do that with my closest relationship. Where like, okay, how can I be there for you more? And part of it, you will actually just you spending time with people, you will understand that this better about other people. But really, my biggest thing around all this stuff is, one, know yourself, understand who your growth friends are. If you're on a growth path, you need to have a group of people or a few people around you that support you on your growth, but also have other people who are just understanding of you, supporting you, who get what you're doing, or at least give you space to do what you're doing. And then finally, check in with yourself when you interact with a bunch of people, no matter who it is, but especially friends. How do you feel after that? What value did they bring for you? What value did you bring for them in that interaction? For me personally, I want people to feel like they've grown when they're around me, whether it's my clients or anybody else. I said something or I did something, whether they felt love or connected or had fun or whatever it is, I brought some value to that relationship. I don't want to be the one that just takes all the time. There are times maybe I will do that. But on average, I don't want to be like that. And I also assess my friends like that. I have a high bar for my friendship as well. What kind of value do they bring for me? Why are they in my life? And again, these are hard questions to ask yourself, but it's important because it will connect you with the most aligned people, and it will deflect other people. None of this means that people who are not closest to you, or they won't be close to you, that they're bad people or you're a bad person for. It just means that you're creating space for them to be around their kind of people. And all you have to do is go back to your life and see that you've had relationships with a lot of people. Why are they not in your life? Because they don't feel aligned with you. But I hope this gave an overall picture of how you can start to think about it and approach it in your life. One final thing I forgot to mention is that one of the reasons why people jump from one relationship to another back to back is because they never knew themselves. So they can't connect to somebody because of some weird reason. And two, they didn't know what need that person was meeting in their life, and they didn't know what need they were meeting. What was the value exchange there? We're not talking about transaction in terms of surface things, but transaction in terms of the deeper needs for human beings. And if you can go back to those things, you will know exactly who to connect with, the kind of person you want to be around, and you will be open to certain friendships that there are needs that are missing there. This is why you will grow and people around you will grow, because you're asking questions that most people around you won't. People talk about other people in a way where they're frustrated, they're resentful, and all sorts of stuff, because they don't know how to ask the direct questions and uncomfortable questions from themselves and them. What value am I bringing? Because we don't want to hear the uncomfortable answers on the other side, especially as leaders. Whether you're running a company or you're around people, you need to be okay with being uncomfortable, hearing things that you probably don't know here, because that's the data you need to grow. You might hear something that stings in the moment, but that's the data you need to grow as a person. Or you might hear something that you didn't even expect, something incredibly positive. Once you bring another level of depth into your relationships, they become different. Then you look for quality. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned is quality is much more important than quantity in relationships. Quality is hard to build. Quality requires a lot of work, consistency, effort, versus quantity can be, you can juggle between different people, but you never feel the depth and connection a lot of times. And again, everybody can handle different number of people. So I'm not saying how many friends you should have. Everybody's very different in that area. And that was one of my biggest realizations a few years back, is that I was either around friends who were entertaining or friends who would drain me. I made the choice to be around people who have fun and stuff, but the need for me became is that I need more than that. And I asked myself, why am I drained every time I leave this person? Is it because they're not dealing with the things and I'm the dumping ground for that? Or is it because I'm putting in something that I'm not gaining back? Or is it because they're just not taking care of their energy? I'm not saying people around you should be perfect. All I'm saying is that if you just have those two dimensions to people, you probably need better friends. You probably need better friends. And you might not be the problem. It might be the choices that you're making, the choices of the kind of people you're around. I don't need that much interaction with my friends. When I do, I'm fully there with them. If I'm on my own, I'm in my own world. When I'm with you, I'm fully with you. You guys will feel the same way. Like when I'm around you, I'm around you. If I'm not there, I'm not there. but that's just how I am. But if you need a lot of interaction, I have a couple of people around me, they need interaction. They're always frustrated that their friends are not interacting with them. Have you brought that up, that you need that kind of interaction? Well, by the way, the best question you can ask people around you, I asked this from my mom. What do you actually really need from me? Because she would always complain, oh, you're not calling them. What do you need? She said, I need you to call me every day. And then I stopped. I can't do that. I can message you a couple of times a week and I can call you once a week. So we negotiated that. And since we came up with that term, I taught her how to message because she just needed to know that I was good and she felt good about that, the safety thing. The second piece of it was she just wanted every time we get on a call, it's always the same question. I'm like, I don't need to go through that, but I'll call her once a week. I'll talk to her. Then I also see her once a week or every other week. So that kind of met both of our needs in the picture, even though we're very different people. But just me asking that question opened up something. You need to understand how you are and start to work with people around you, how you function. Because if you do that, you're authentic, you're upfront, you're direct, you don't fall into the trap of resentment. And most people in friendships will either fall into the trap of resentment or obligation or burden. Their relationships become a burden on them. And I think that's probably one of the worst conditions of human life, is that our relationships become a burden. And I've lived with that for 30 plus years of my life, and that does not feel good. To have relationships around and for them to feel like they're a burden on you, I don't think anybody appreciates that. So consider all your relationships, not just friendships, but the closest relationships around you. How do you feel around them? And when you leave their company, what is the value that you bring to them? What is the value that they bring? How can you create a better quality of interaction with the people around them? These are hard questions to answer, but in your experience, you can deal with them as you move forward. Hope you all have an incredible week, and we'll see you on Thursday. Take care, y'all.